Spurs fans, we got blessed with Victor Wembanyama. This season, he met or exceeded a lot of people's expectations, even though he was crowned the best prospect ever in basketball. This is going to be a video where I go over the best games of his first season in the NBA. I'm hoping this is going to be an annual series where I talk about, after every season, this was his best games of the year. I think this is important, so it showcases his, abilities as a basketball player, and for, right now, obviously, it showcases his potential as a basketball player and what he can bring to, to the Spurs or any franchise if he unfortunately leaves us. Please, let's not have that happen, God. So let's get right into it. First, we're going to have honorable mentions. What I think is a great game is probably different to other people. Some people think, an individual statistical performance, the best of that is going to easily be the best game of a person's career. 82 points. No doubt in my mind, that's the best game. While others will argue, him, dropping 50 points in a Game 7 finals, that's way more important than him dropping 82 in a regular season. And which, I probably agree with the latter. But obviously, this is just one season. He's only played 70 or so games, and only he's made, hasn't made the playoffs yet. So I think it's going to be pretty easy. The criteria is going to be, as you'll see on this list, how does he impact winning? How did he do individually and statistically, obviously? And was he consistent, throughout the entire game? I think that's a very fair criteria to have. So let's start off with some of the honorable mentions I have. Victor Wembanyama versus the Indiana Pacers on March 3rd. This is pretty just an all-around great game where, this is what I expect him to do consistently in the future. When he's in his peak, I expect him to put up 31 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 blocks on very efficient shooting. This is what I expect him to be when he is at his best, consistently. When he's in his peak, this is what I want. This was just a very efficient and consistent game with another, great defensive performance. The only loss on this list is against this Philadelphia 76ers on April 7th. This was crazy because it went into overtime, and unfortunately, Victor Wembanyama had 9 turnovers, which is why I ultimately didn't make the top 3 list. But 33 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 blocks, 11 for 20, and 5 of 10 is a crazy stat line. And this was, dare I say, his best 3-point performance. And, it shows his potential as if he hits this consistently, my goodness gracious, he's going to be deadly in the league. Against the Brooklyn Nets, March 17th, 33 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 7 blocks, 14 of 26, and 1 of 7 from 3. Sadly, I think that 1 of 7 from 3 kind of brings him down a little bit. But I think his clutch ability in this game, in the fourth quarter and down the stretch of this game, is really important. It generates a lot of points and blocks in this game. This was mostly a game where he shows, his presence in the paint as both an offensive and defensive player. Great handle, great touch, and it showcases his confidence and skill even when he's cold from 3. Now let's get to the top 3. First game I want to talk about is actually probably his first ever elite basketball game, which was against the Phoenix Suns, November 2nd, 2023. Some people might argue, against the Rockets when he went crazy during the fourth quarter and overtime. And that was a great game. But this was his first, I'm a superstar. I can be a superstar kind of performance. 38 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. Very efficient all around. This was his first 30-plus point game. He won 132, 121. His team won that. And it was his first ever double-digit win and also first ever win streak. This is important because not only did he play consistently well through both the first half and the second half and every single quarter. He didn't have a single cold stretch. He did this against a playoff team with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and matched up against them and outperformed them. This is what makes this game so great to me. And I remember that this was really the only elite game he had for a little bit. So everybody was, already jumping on he's overrated. Chet Holmgren's going to win the Rookie of the Year and, that train, which was very annoying. No, this was a great game though. Again, played great in literally every single quarter. Was very efficient. And this is probably the game that I expect. This is what he's going to do night in and night out, right? He's going to affect the game in multiple ways. And this is his peak as an offensive player. Of course, besides the passing, which it leads us to our next game against the Toronto Raptors, and that took place February 12th. 27 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 10 blocks, 10 of 14, 2 of 4. This was his first triple-double with double-digit blocks, specifically, his second triple-double ever. His first came against the Pistons. This is tied for the most efficient game in his career. The other game he was like 5 or 7. And this is also his most blocks in a game in his career. This is also another game where he just kind of dominated from first quarter to the last quarter, similar to the Phoenix Suns game. However, in this one, his first half, he was an offensive guru. He was passing at an elite level. He was scoring at an elite level. Everything that you want in an offensive superstar, this is what he showed. This is also great because, you watch some of these plays, that no-look pass to Jeremy Sohan, that driving, and then, the airspace is too crowded, so I last-second ditch it to trade the cutting Trey Jones. This is an elite playmaker, Victor Wembanyama. And this showcases to me, oh, no, I'm not just elite at, scoring and defending. I'm also elite in playmaking. I'm also elite in passing. This, this shows I can be elite at literally every single skill set in basketball. And this is why I'm the best prospect ever in NBA history. And of course, I have to go with number 1 against the New York Knicks, March 29th. I mean, the stat line probably says it all. 40 points, 20 rebounds, 7 assists, 13 of 22, 4 of 9. Very efficient. Very crazy. He also forced 3 turnovers with, I believe, a steal and 2 blocks. But this was peak performance offensively. Great passing, great scoring, great shooting, and of course, great rebounds. This is his first and currently only 40-plus point game. Of course, his career high in points. Tied for the most rebounds in a game. The other game, I guess, was against the Bulls. And, of course, most importantly, he won the game. He impacted the game and helped them win in overtime. Also, just look at this glorious video of him holding the ball, kind of like Tim Duncan. I won't go into too much detail about that, though. And then throwing it into the stands. Not only was this game special because of his performance, but also because of, how he acted towards the fans after the game. This game was like, oh yeah, he's a San Antonio Spurs fan, a San Antonio Spurs player for life, in my opinion. That game generally made me feel like, oh yeah, I just can't see him leaving San Antonio. Something drastic would have to happen. But talking about this game for a second, I mean, he played good all game, but specifically end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, my goodness gracious, he helped keep the Spurs afloat when the Knicks came back against the Spurs. Of course, he played great in the paint. He shot well. And even though Jalen Brunson had an all-time performance, Victor Wembanyama was able to match his production and stay on his level. Of course, again, another great passing game. This is what I expect from Victor Wembanyama at his peak: is high rebounds, high points, a good amount of assists, very efficient from not only inside the paint, which he always will be, but also from 3. Add a couple more blocks, and this is going to be literally superstar Victor Wembanyama in 5-6 years from now. This game proves to me he can be the franchise player. He's only learning. He is only learning. This was a special game. I remember I was with my friend Johnny, who's a New York Knicks fan. He was just like, wow, I can't Victor Wembanyama, right? And this was the game that was like, yes, he's here. He is San Antonio now. He is the era. Which, of course, I would argue, it didn't matter. We all knew he was going to be the next Tim Duncan, the next big player in San Antonio since he got drafted. But I like to think that there are certain games that validify that. And I think that this is one of those games that also helped him secure the Rookie of the Year. Now, of course, although this is mostly a video about him and his best performances, I want to talk a little bit about his flaws. Especially in a game like the 76ers where he played well. The reason why we lost is because of his 9 turnovers. And, some of his flaws is very simple rookie mistakes. He's a rookie, and he still has a lot to grow. He was a rookie, and he still was playing at an all-star level this season. Watch out, NBA. Watch out. But no, most of his flaws is some decision-making, inconsistent outside shot, and he has hot and cold stretches. And I remember some of the Rockets game. He was kind of cold all game. Through the third quarter, he was kind of not playing well. He was inefficient. He didn't really shoot a lot, and he wasn't impacting the game besides just being a paint presence. But boy, that fourth and overtime, man, that guy looked like a superstar. And that's the point, right? Of course, making, those hot stretches into just not a fourth quarter or overtime, helping to win the game, but an entire game. Most of these wins, most of the best games on this list was, he played well throughout the entire game. That's why he won in almost every single game besides the 76ers. Because when he plays like Victor Wembanyama from quarter 1 to quarter 4, the Spurs will win games. To analyze it more specifically, his decision making is very interesting. You'll see him a lot of times try to force shots when it's too crowded. Yes, you're 7'4", but this is also the NBA. This is where you're going to meet some players who will kind of match your size. Remember that, Victor Wembanyama. Remember that also when you go against more athletic guys. You are still skinnier and need to put a little bit more muscle on you before you can, truly act like you're just dunking over fourth graders. But also, again, like I was saying, he can sometimes shoot a little bit when it's too crowded, sometimes force passes, because he's a great passer. It's just sometimes he, overestimates his passing ability, I feel like, or just sees something but doesn't catch the defender until it's too late after he passes it. And of course, he racks up a lot of turnovers. He does. The 76ers game, he had 9 turnovers. I remember, I think it was either against the Denver Nuggets. I believe he had 7 turnovers, and I just, I can see the pick and roll, and he tries to pick it to Trey Jones because it was an inverted pick and roll, and Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray was right there and just picked it off, right? Because it was too tight of a window. So he needs to learn how to do that and also not take too many risks. Of course, his inconsistent outside shot in the beginning of the year, it was really bad. It was below 30%. But of course, he helped, throughout the rest of the season, he helped raise that slowly up and up and up. And if you can have more performances like 3 of 6 from 3, 5 of 10, 5 of 12, I mean, my goodness gracious, how are you going to stop this man? How can you stop this man when he actually gets a consistent 3-point shot? Victor Wembanyama, though, is an amazing player, and I can't wait to see what he does more so in his career. Next season, he's going to definitely have better games than the ones on this list, but so far, that Spurs and Knicks game I will always remember in my head, and that is definitely one of the best games I've ever seen as a Spurs fan. Thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. Peace.